Welcome to the Be You and Be Real podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Daniel, and I'm excited that you're here because I want to help people tell their story. Because if you don't tell your story, no one else will. So we're going to jump in and have real conversation with extraordinary people. Let's open the next chapter of the Be You and Be Real podcast. Well, welcome to the next chapter of the Be You and Be Real show. I'm excited that you're here, and I'm going to do something a little different because I want to explain along the way, what does Be You and Be Real mean to me? And there's a few key words that really jump out. And so my intention is to drop an episode once a week talking about this. All right. So for example, this week, Be You and Be Real, it also means legacy. Like that's what it means to me. That word really speaks to me. It really resonates with me. And I think it does with a lot of people in our world today. And so a part of this is I'm going to read some quotes, a little Monday motivation or whatever you want to call it. But I'm going to read some quotes and actually dive a little deeper into it and what that how I reflect and take that internally. Okay. So here we go. All right. So this quote is from Audrey Hepburn. As you grow older, you will discover that you have two hands, one for helping yourself, the other for helping others. And so what does this mean to me, right? If I'm sitting here looking at this quote by Audrey Hepburn and I realize that I've got two hands, and if I'm constantly focusing on one hand on myself and the other hand on other people, what does that mean? And what I see, and I'm totally like going back into the chapters, I see in my own story where there's times where I lift up a weight, right? And if you're listening right now, I've got a 10-pound weight in my hand, and you can see this, and it's kind of heavy, and I'm sitting here constantly doing reps, like I'm lifting it, but it's only in one hand. And now my thought is on this is, what about the other hand? So say I'm constantly pouring into others, and I'm lifting and I'm doing reps and I'm doing reps and I'm getting stronger in that arm. But if I don't slow down enough and I don't focus on the other hand, which is myself, then how am I actually going to show up? And so recently I actually had surgery on my right knee, and I was doing physical therapy, and the physical therapist was actually saying, you know what, we actually see a lot of atrophy in your right leg where you had surgery versus your left leg. You can see the strength is still there in your left leg and not in your right. Well, it got me thinking about this quote and going, wow, okay, if I'm constantly pouring into others and doing that rep, right, lifting those weights and pouring into others, it's building the muscle in one hand. But if I'm not focused on myself and strengthening myself and spending time with myself and reflecting and doing all these things, all of a sudden I'm going to start having atrophy in that hand. And all of a sudden, what does atrophy mean? It means wasting away. Right? That muscle begins to waste away, and it's not so much a useful muscle anymore, and it gets really weak. And so all of a sudden this balance comes into play, and I'm like, wow, like, okay, here we go. So it takes a combination. You've got to constantly work out both hands, and in order to focus on the legacy piece, because we want to pour into people and show up in the world. And I'm wearing a shirt right now that says, because I said I would. I want to do what I say I'm going to do, and I'm going to show up for people constantly. But if I'm not showing up for myself, you're not going to have the energy that it takes to truly leave a legacy. And so that's what it got me thinking this week. Is like, all right, so this is the quote. Again, I'll read it. It's, as you grow older, you will discover that you have two hands, one for helping yourself and one for helping others, by Audrey Hepburn. So my question to you is, which one are you focused on this week? Are you focused on the one helping others, or are you focused on yourself? There's no wrong answer. And as a matter of fact, it takes time, right? It takes time to build up those muscles. And if you haven't focused on yourself enough right now, then maybe it's time to start doing reps. And maybe it's not a 10-pound weight at first. Maybe it's a 1-pound weight, and you just simply start taking action. So my goal for you this week is to focus on your legacy by focusing not only on other people, but focusing on yourself. And tell your story. And if you want a medium, if you want an outlet to be able to do that, I invite you to join us. I invite you to tell your story and use this as your outlet. Check out the website, go to beyouandbereal.com and submit your application to come on the show. And I would love to help you tell your story on how you're flexing your muscles, how you're showing up in both hands and doing the reps that it's going to take to create a lasting legacy. So thank you for sticking around this week and tuning in. And hopefully this was a little motivation for you as we get the week kicked off. So as always, be you and be real. Well, thank you for tuning in to this chapter of the Be You and Be Real podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. If you or someone you know is looking to share your story, go to beyoubandbereal.com to inquire how to become a guest on the show. Until next time, live your life on purpose. Be you and be real. We'll see you in the next chapter.